Now that you've had some of the kids who've now in their 30s, you'll have had feedback about the impact of actually being part of the program on their lives. What are you hearing back?
I think the most common thing I hear is how people are so empowered by self knowledge, by telling their story and answering these questions. It goes out of their mouth and back in their ear, and they process who they are and they discover who they are. And for kids, it's such a dangerous time because at about 10 or 11, you're really starting to ask, who in the world am I? The most natural path is to try to find themselves in the eyes of their friends, which is why we care so much about what other people think and why kids are such a victim of that influence of what other people, what other kids think. Um, and of course, they discover through the process kind of what my father helped me discover when I was going through that. I think I was 13 and I'd come home and complaining about what somebody was saying about me or thinking about me and projecting all of this insecurity. And my dad said, Rick, you would not worry so much of what people thought of you if you realized how seldom they do. And that is so true. And people discovered this, that people really just worried about themselves. They're not judging you the way you think they are, and we carry so much of this. So being able to start to answer that question and find out where the source of their self-esteem is and their self-worth, because we give it all away. We give it to our friends, we give it to our parents, we give it to our grades, to our athletics, all the external sources that should not be the source of self-worth. So I think it's the most valuable thing people find is they find it empowering to realize where their self-worth comes from, which is why I take them through questions like, what's the one word to describe you and what are your 5 greatest character strengths? Because in the end, it's just all about character. I spend a lot of time because a lot of the money we receive through private schools. The private schools have this, not only the freedom, the sort of forward thinking, they want something special for their school, which is why the 5,000 Days Project's so attractive to them. And it's really been something where this entire sense of self-discovery that comes through this process is then borne out in kids becoming their own people. I mean, I say, motto is, if knowledge is power, self-knowledge is superpower.
I think you're right there. Wow. Do you have one story from the project you want to tell? One kid's story?
Oh, I have so many stories. Which one do I want to tell? I can talk about when I was doing a speaking tour in Australia. I was approached by an Australian woman who was involved with the Sunrise Children's Home in Cambodia. And in this one case, there was this little girl who at 3 had been sold by her mother for $50. Again, you can only imagine what state a parent would have to be in to do that. But for $50, she was sold to this begging gang. Well, the police ended up picking her up, brought her to Sunrise. And so from 3 years old, she was raised there. But at 5, she's constantly wondering where her mother was. And so there was no word from the mother. The best thing was to say her mother had passed. So at 5 years old, this little girl runs away and is found 3 days later sleeping on an anonymous grave, thinking that was her mother's grave. And so they brought her back to Sunrise. And that's just the beginning of the story. I don't even want to tell much more of it than that because it is so huge. We've actually done a little film about it to honor her, but there's so many stories there like that. I actually have Another one of very powerful story. Starts in the Ukraine on a winter night. This worker is walking along the road. It's freezing, and he hears a baby crying. And in a bus stop garbage pail, a baby has been left wrapped in a blanket. And luckily, he takes the baby to a hospital. The hospital sends the baby to an orphanage. The orphanage adopts the baby to a single woman in Virginia. That little girl grows up to come to the project camp and be one of the most remarkable young filmmakers I've ever met.
Wow.
Story after story.
Yeah. Fantastic. So you're going to keep going with this project?
I would keep going to this project until I die. Just pity the kid that's there when it happens.
You must be dying to get back each year to go, to see what's happened in each child's life. To be able to hear that each year must be an incredible privilege.
It is incredible, and it is a privilege. And I will look at my own motivations for doing it. I am a complete connection junkie. To be able to have 2, 3, 4 hours of deep discussion with people and connect with them of all ages every day, because I do about 500 of these interviews a year, is just like the best thing in the world. You know, they have this famous Harvard study about happiness and what brings happiness. It's not money, it's not wealth, it's not position, it's connection. So I'm happy.